Welcome back to Josh's Auto. Today I have my 2000 F350. That's right, this is my truck. It has the 7.3 Power Stroke in it, and I'm getting ready to pull the cab off. I believe this thing has finally broke a piston ring after almost 400,000 miles on it. Symptoms on it were loss of power and excessive amounts of blow-by. So I started spewing oil out the crankcase breather, which I do have the crankcase mod, and it was blowing a lot of oil out through the passenger side. I believe it was actually coming out through the dipstick, or it was blowing past the valve cover gasket itself. This entire passenger side area over here was completely covered in oil, as well as up in the fender liner, and the oil was making its way all the way back to the rear fender liner. So I have another engine I'm prepping for a more intense build on, but for the time being, with needing to use the truck on a daily basis, I'm just going to go ahead and tear it down and probably just do a ball hone on the cylinder walls as long as they look okay, and re-ring the pistons and put it back together. So I've been making progress in the teardown. Just unhooking everything that's going to stay on the cab. Thankfully for the 7.3s, the AC system does not have to be opened up. But I did figure out that I was missing the bolt out of the clutch in the AC compressor. I never noticed it. It was rattling and making all kinds of noise, but it was working. So that's something I'll address whenever I go back together with it. I've still got a ground wire on the frame to unhook. There's supposed to be a ground on the back side of the engine going to the firewall, but I've not found it yet. Then down the driver's side you have various connections down here to unhook. I've got one red wire that was added in extra that I'm gonna have to remember what it went to. Disconnect it. I've got the shifter linkage to unhook, the parking brake cable left to unhook, the steering column left to unhook, and then I've unhooked the brake lines, unhooked the power steering. I do have one more line for power steering I'm gonna unhook from up here, from the Hydro Boost. And then I'm gonna have a nut here on each side of the radiator, one on each side to take off. That is one of the body mounts. And then there is 6 body mounts inside. I'm gonna have to remove the rear seat to get to 4 of the mounts inside, and then pull the floor liner back in the front of the cab as well, and remove the 2 bolts, one on each side in the front footwells. And then this cab should just about be ready to come off at that point. So I know there was, I think, 2 other wires that I added in. One was for my trans temp gauge and one for reverse camera. So once I unhook those 3 wires that were added in, plus the other couple items, this cab should come off. Now while I have the cab off, I am going to pressure wash in here. This thing has seen better days, but with almost 400,000 miles on it, which I got it several months ago, and it had majority of the miles on it. And this truck's been a little bit of a project since I got it, but it improves every time I work on it. So, I'm gonna get back to it. Alright, so I got the bolts that are down here undone. It's a little bright. It's for the radiator support and body mount. So on both sides of the radiator there was the bolt, or I'm sorry, the nut there, and it's 18 millimeter. Then when you come to the inside of the truck to pull the 6 on the inside. You have the ones on the passenger side are a 21, and the ones on the driver's side are a 15/16. In the back you have one here, and you have one here in the floorboard, and it's going to be the same locations on the driver's side. Then your one for the front seat is right in that hole. Now the one in the front has that rubber grommet on both sides, and the one in the flat portion of the floor pan also has one of the rubber grommets. So other than that, have everything disconnected and just need to set up the arms to the lift, and this thing should be ready to come off. So I'm not sure where I left off in the video. The engine is totally out of the frame, cab's totally off. Engine parts galore. Cylinder heads are over there. And we have the engine hanging. All the pistons are out. No rings ended up being broken. But we did find an issue. Took a little while to find. All the pistons looked okay. All the rings looked okay. The only thing that I can figure happened is because of this hole that we found in the intercooler pipe caused the truck to overboost, and the truck did not know true amount of boost that was going through it, and it lifted the cylinder head and blew the head gasket out. So we have new rings here. I've got all new injectors on the way, new head gaskets, valve stem seals, new head bolts. So we have a few items to go back in this thing. I'm to the point of getting ready to gap all the new rings and set the pistons back in. I'm gonna get going on that now. Alright, got all the rings gapped and got this side set of pistons in. The other side pistons aren't in just yet. And I went and picked up some parts that I sent off to the powder coater. So got them on. So I have a few more parts that are this teal color, and then I have some other parts that are the shocker yellow that I already had on the truck. And everything's starting to go back together now. Alright, we've made more progress on the 7.3. I've got all the rings done, all the pistons installed. So I've got all the main caps, the connecting rod caps back on and torqued down. So through their two sequences that they have, so it's all bolted together. Rotating assembly is working. Everything's going back together. I've got the flywheel off and the rear cover off. Gonna go ahead and do the rear main seal and the rear plate that goes here. I'm gonna reseal it, put it all back together and put it back on, put the oil pan back on. I'll be ready to set this engine down so I can go ahead and get working on the heads to finish them off. Alright, made big progress. Have engine totally in the frame, bolted in, all the wiring back on, all the accessories minus the air conditioner back on. I've done my I-beam bushings that I wanted to replace while I had the body off, so just less things to fight around. So got a crankcase vent, so got everything cleared out of the way. About ready to set the body back down on this thing. Got the cab all the way on, all the accessories and everything hooked up. So got it up and running, but there was a slight crack in the radiator, so had to take it a little bit back apart. And then I do have a leak on the oil cooler that I've got the seals for, so I'm going to go ahead and replace the oil cooler seals there. Eventually I'm going to get the S&B kit for the intake and replace the old box. The previous owner had done a little cardboard and tape mod to it, so I've opened it up to be able to pull more air out of the fender itself too. So I'm making some good progress. Maybe, just maybe, in the camera, I don't know if you can tell or not, but all the sparkle in the powder coat, you know, the sparkle over here, and that's the two colors that are Shocker Yellow and Hawaiian Teal. So thanks for watching.